Hey everyone, it's Ryan O'Connor. We are talking about the ITI Congress South Africa, Cape Town, July 25 to 27. Theme is dentistry of things, and we continue the series of podcasts with some of the amazing guests and speakers you're going to hear from when you come to Cape Town. If you haven't yet enrolled, a reminder of the website, iti.org. All the details are on the site, and go and have a look at, and hopefully we'll whet your appetite enough between now and then for you to have made the decision to join. If you have already enrolled, then we'll see you then in Cape Town over the weekend of July 25 to 27. Now, two amazing speakers join us from the Western Cape. Colleen Schnettler, a young periodontist from Cape Town. Good day to you, Colleen.
Hi, Ryan. Nice being here.
And then Ridwan Hafaji, who's completing his, and I want to get this right, prosthodontic speciality at UWC.
Well done.
Sure, did I get it right? Whew, talk about being a mouthful, having a mouthful. Both of you, welcome. You know, it's going to be exciting come the ITI Congress in a couple of months' time. But both of you obviously specializing in, is it the same or totally different?
Two different.
Two different.
I'm a periodontist,
Right.
so we always feel there's a bit of a banter between the periodontist and the prosthodontist.
Okay.
They feel they're building the house, but
Yes.
we lay the foundation.
Aha, I like that.
And what do you think is the most important aspect?
Foundation.
Yes.
Yeah, the house can't be built unless the foundation's rock solid. Check. Ridwan's looking at going, he's going like, huh? What are you talking about houses? We're talking about teeth here. Tell us a little bit about, obviously, you're no strangers when it comes to the ITI. And the emphasis rather is on people who are not a part of the organization yet to sign up to come to one of the congresses and meet like-minded people, to build their knowledge and to build into the family of experience around what you both specialize in and various other forms of dentistry. Have you found that to be the case? Maybe we'd want to start with you in terms of ITI and your connection with ITI, or what you know of ITI.
You know, Ryan, you summed it up perfectly. You said family, and I think that's pretty much the ethos that ITI has tried to create. And I think the mandate that Colleen and I were given, or that we've been taken up, was the young ITI, which is just incorporating the new guys. I think what happens normally at these congresses, you see the bullies, and the same bullies over and over again.
And we want to tell the international audience who the bullies are. Bullies are old people. In South Africa, we call them bullies. So there's another, because we like to also, for our international audience, give them like a couple of words that are South African words. And so for anyone else that's listening, if you hear Ridwan say the bullies, he's talking about the older crowd that have been coming to these congresses forever.
Paul and Christian.
Yeah, Paul and Christian.
No, but
Yeah.
I'm sure Colleen felt the same.
Yeah.
I qualified in 2011, and then I knew I wanted to specialize, but the big question was, where do I start?
Sure.
And I think it's the same thing for anyone going into practice. I want to know more, but where do I start?
Yeah.
And you need a platform. And I joined the ITI, and I'm sure you probably heard, but they have study clubs that run every so often.
Yeah.
And you go for these study clubs, and it's really a cool environment. It's highly intimidating, obviously, because the bullies are there.
Yeah.
And you just got to find a way to fitting in. And I think over the years now, we just become part of the furniture, and we're not even 30 years yet.
It's
Yeah,
incredible.
so I think
I
it's
just
pretty cool.
No, Colleen, can't be. Can't be. Really?
No, we don't talk about age. No, but I felt the same.
Yeah.
It's very daunting if you newly qualified.
Sure.
Going into the field, you have no one to guide you, giving you a platform, telling you what to do, not to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we want to do. We just want to help those guys because we know what it feels like.
Yeah, and also on that note as well, I mean, you kind of your immediate surroundings where you're based kind of become what you do for a living, and you become focused on that. And every now and then you need to actually just lift your head up and kind of pick somebody else's brain who's doing the same thing that you are, but maybe in a different part of the world, that's maybe got a bit more experience, or maybe doing something a different technique or a different whatever. It's nice to be a part of that family that's able to, when needed, pick into that amazing pool of knowledge that you have readily available.
I think the other big thing that comes in here is it's not just specialists.
Sure.
It's general dentists.
Yes.
And the idea is creating this harmony between all of us, as opposed to creating these levels of I'm here, you there, and we do our own thing. But I think it's patient-centered. Ultimately, it's the patients that need to benefit, because that's what we're in this profession for, helping people.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's evidence-based as well. It's not someone who's sucking something from their thumb.
Yes.
You have evidence-based guidelines that you can follow. So, and that's what we want to incorporate into practice and tell people you have to use the literature that's done that can guide you. You can't just listen to anyone who's not doing the same evidence-based work.
Yeah, true. Do you find, and this is going to be interesting to know, because this is like, I think in any career, when you've got people, and we call them buddies early on, but when you've got this group of whether they're whatever they do in the line of dentistry, whether they've been working for 50 years in that line, 40 years, that experience is vast. What I'm feeling, in my sense, I don't know. All I know is the people that I've met that belong to the ITI, and they all seem to share the same passion of sharing knowledge, and that's something that's really hard to do in this day and age, because when people have worked out something that suits them and works really successfully for them in their career, they're very loath sometimes to share that success, because often it's they're known for that, and that's almost their signature, what they do really well. And to pass on little hints, little tips, little bits of experience that they've gathered. Sometimes in various careers, it's almost a selfish thing for them not to want to do. What I've noticed is that is not the case with the ITI, is that you've got this depth of experience that you can turn to. And you mentioned the ITI, this new younger unit of the ITI that's now rising up to the ranks. They're very vocal, they're very technology focused, they're embracing technology, while some of the older crowd might be battling with technology. The experience, though, is shared. So there's no kind of a barrier when you're joining ITI. You have that, like you mentioned it, that almost that nervousness about wanting to talk to somebody who you've a peer that you've admired or you've respected, that's written these countless publications on certain work. That knowledge and that ability to be able to network with them is what ITI is also about.
It's kind of like meeting Brian O'Connor.
Yes, exactly.
I'll tell you, I love, and we haven't mentioned this in any of the podcast, but I've always wanted to know where dentists find the conversations that they have with you, because all I say, and how they can figure out what you're saying back, because all I say back is and my dentist knows exactly what I'm saying back. He goes, "Oh yeah, I know. The Proteas are going to play Zimbabwe next," and I'm like, so that's about as much as I know in terms of dentistry. But you both are going to add so much value to the Congress come the middle of the year. You've obviously both been to Congresses before, and we've spoken a bit about the familyhood of the organization. Also, opportunities exist to travel the world, and I'll say that because I just heard very enviously about Colleen's trip happening in a couple of days' time over. Also, speaking again, talking and sharing your knowledge with others with regard to what you do for a living.
Yes, Ron, I'm going to Malta on Tuesday. Very excited. I didn't even know where Malta was. I had to go Google it. And I saw it's a very small island, and I grabbed the opportunity. And I actually also got the opportunity through the ITI.
Yeah.
It was one of the study clubs. Someone approached me afterwards and asked me, they're having a women in implant dentistry summit in Malta. So one, I'm getting to share my knowledge, and two, we're actually trying to build up females in the profession as well.
Yeah. Because I was going to ask that, how big is the ratio, male-female ratio in specifically in your line of work?
No, because I'm a periodontist, as I mentioned, and currently in our country there's very few females.
Yes.
And in each of the specialities, actually.
Yeah.
So, and if you look at the numbers of the younger dentists or the newly qualified dentists, there's an increase of females qualifying. Yeah. And that's also the other thing we want to do. We want to make females aware that we can also be surgeons, you can also lecture, you can also do everything, but still have to prioritize your life, having a family, working, and all of that as well.
I also want to ask about, because this is something else that you're also involved with, and I want to know a little bit about it, because you both are with Young ITI, but also there's a group called Bridge Program. Tell us about Bridge Program.
So the Bridge Program is literally, the name comes from bridging the gap.
Okay.
It's also for the new younger qualified dentists. There's 8 modules.
Okay.
It's starting now, literally this weekend, and the idea is to expose them to the newest technology in the field and equipping them to actually help use it in practice.
Okay.
And we are part of the implantology, so also training them into basic implantology and
So it's like the 101 of
yes,
implantology.
Exactly.
All right, listen, Ridwan, you're also out at UWC, who I've got to say, if you're listening from anywhere around the world, has one of the best varsity rugby teams. I am supporting UW's for the Varsity Cup, Rugby Cup, which is taking place currently at the moment, and pulling in huge crowds at the University of the Western Cape. Plus, everywhere they go, they just have this large contingent of support, me being one of them. And you're a lecturer there. Nice place to be a lecturer, actually.
Actually, I'm not a lecturer.
Aren't you?
I'm still a student.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've got your lectures and very involved at UWC. So,
Okay, so pretty much.
You do lectures.
Yeah.
I do, yeah. So pretty much, the registrar program involves both teaching and learning.
Okay, got
So
you.
as much as I'm there to learn,
Yeah.
there's a component that involves teaching.
Sure.
So I'm not a Bali lecturer.
I think Paul and
I love
Christian
it.
is gonna hammer you.
Yeah, he's going to be like, what's this Bali business?
Yeah.
Bali. But it's nice. I mean, look here, you want to hear from somebody who's just done something. So it would make sense for you to give back in terms of you're still busy you're learning stuff. At the same time, there's a lot of first and second years who are going through, parts of their beginning phases and journeys where you'll be like, I'm fresh from there, loads of experience in that because it's what I do. I can help out.
You know what I picked up a lot when I was a student? I qualified as in 2011. You really look up to the senior guys as role models.
Yes.
I want to do something like he said, or like he did something like this here. And I realized that being a young registrar, you're in a position of influence.
Okay.
And if you can make a positive change to that, then obviously you've done your job.
Yeah.
A classic example was last night. We had a launch for a Straumann implant launched a new innovative implant design, and there were a whole lot of guys there, and there was probably a group of about 4 young guys.
Yeah.
4
Very
or 5.
few young
Very
people.
few. But what I found amazing was there was 2 of them that were just standing in the corner, just hanging about, look kind of like loners, like what you and I did back in the day. But except now that they had a familiar face to go to, they
Yes.
just came up to me and they were like, so what do we do here? So I'm like, you stand, you smile, you nod,
You
and you
nod,
act like you know what you're doing. But it was cool because I remember when I was a lot younger,
Yes.
I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And now to be in a position, and that's what young ITI is doing. You're
Sure.
creating this little network within a
Yeah.
bigger network. So these guys don't feel like, I can't go because there's only bigger, more intelligent
Sure.
people there. But it's really, we just, all of the random people just imparting knowledge to one another, and yeah, it's fantastic.
It
I love
is.
it.
It's incredible. I don't think people realize until they've actually joined and they come and attend is how special and how really family-like it is to be involved with ITI. And I want to talk next about technology, because I look around and I see this room. And by the way, speaking of technology, this is the first podcast that we're doing with actual visuals attached to it as well. So while we're doing the podcast, there were various parts that you can go and check of us in the studios where we shoot the podcast and you don't only get to hear the beautiful voices, but the beautiful, pretty faces behind some of the people you're going to see and meet at the Congress later on in the year. So,
are you talking about the both of us now?
the both of you, yeah, I'm looking at that side of the table and going to both of you, and I'm also inspiring people that are just listening to the podcast to go and watch parts of it, because technology plays a big role, and that's what I want to talk about, is embracing technology. And obviously you're both from a generation that's technology is a vital part of how we communicate, it's a vital part of how we work these days, and going into the future, in a future where it's going to be, you cannot avoid with the way the future is going. It's making life, and in every industry and in every line of work, easier. It's taking out a whole lot and supposed to be simplifying lives in huge ways, which in the most it is, but also in many ways. And you spoke about the older generation, and we often associate the disconnect with technology in an older generation. It comes from fear of embracing the unknown. I've been doing it for 30 years. How can you build a machine or computer technology that's doing what takes me a week to do in the space of an hour? There are people that are embracing it, and there are people that aren't embracing it. But you're coming from a generation that's almost integrated with that technology.
Also, I think, I'm just going to defend the Balis there a little bit
Yeah.
now. ITI has also created this environment where every few years, I think it's 4 years, that they have their consistent statements.
Yes.
So basically every 4 years, you get a group of worldwide specialists, and I think Paul and Christian are part of that,
Yes.
where they get together and they share, okay, look, this new has come out in the last 4 years.
Okay.
Where do we stand with it?
Yeah.
So it's also promoting knowledge, that way you don't end up in a situation where your older guys feel like, I've been doing this for 30 years.
Yes.
I was with Blackie Swart and Paul the other night, and these guys were doing stuff that
Yeah.
technologically I haven't done as yet. So now we got
Yeah,
guys
so
So they actually hit.
Yes.
yes, yeah. And that's exactly this transfer of information, because
Yes.
now they're using sound experience and education that they've had over years, and they're imparting to us, tell us, look, this is not going to work. This is probably not going to work. You'd rather try it this way, because sometimes I think being young and naive and go guns blazing with everything, and it doesn't always work like that, because at the end of the day you're dealing with patients.
It's true.
And there's a human element that you can't ignore. And you should never ignore it, honestly.
Absolutely. And then you hear now, and a guest coming up soon is, I don't know if you know the gentleman from Johannesburg. He's automated his entire dentistry. It's basically, it all runs off a mobile app. He can run it off his iPad or off his iPhone, but I'm talking about setting the office up, making sure parts of it are ready. Certainly not the human interaction, but he still does. But everything else is automated, and it runs off his iPad. And we're going to show over the series, hopefully, not only of podcasts, but doing a couple of videos as well with this gentleman. Hopefully have him display what he does come ITI Congress in the middle of the year. But that's also plays a big part in terms of the future, is that there's new things cropping up. And you spoke about every 4 years them coming together. That's more than likely in the next year or so going to have to come down to a lot shorter, because technology's racing along at such a fast pace.
I think it's also important that we keep abreast with technology, because patients, as I think they mentioned this term last night, instant gratification. Patients are coming from their generation of you want something, you pull out your iPhone, you do a download. You buy something, you're gonna take a lot and you buy it. Patients expect dentistry the same.
That you shouldn't get carried away with it. You still have to have your principles. And yes, it should make your life easier, but you still have to have that sound principles to follow the guidelines and know what will work, and not just have a gimmick that just looks nice.
Looks good. Listen, just to veer off to to another direction completely. I'm intrigued to know your love for dentistry, where it comes from. Ridwan, where did you come from? A family of Connie knows I'm going with this because her dad's a dentist. Where did your love come? And you've got amazing teeth, by the way, as well. I mean, I've never met a dentist or anyone who works in dentistry with bad teeth. So I should be in. My teeth aren't bad, eh?
It looks alright from here.
But when you come close, you're like, what? So where did the love come from?
Honestly, I have no idea. I decided in, I think it was the 11th grade, I want to do dentistry, and I think it's been the best decision I've done since then. I think for me personally, in terms of prosthodontics, I remember when I was in grade 7, my dad, I think he didn't have too much of hope in me. I wonder if he's listening to this, but anyway, I remember the day that he comes to me and he's like, maybe you're look into plumbing or electrician or something like that. They're like, you're really good with your hands, and maybe that would be a good field. And at that time, I was like, I don't know what this man's talking about.
Oh, that's brilliant.
But I wanted to go to a certain school because I thought that I was going to be AB de Villiers, but that never materialized. And anyhow, so he says, look, you're going to go to school to play cricket, but you're going to bring the grades. And then somehow, my mum, she took over and she was like, sport is not a priority in life.
That's mom. That's the voice of reason,
that's
right
exactly
there.
It. And then the next thing I knew, I wanted to do dentistry. And prosthodontics really just goes back to it. I'm just doing handyman stuff, in essence, in the patient's mouth. You're building and you're fixing. And I think that's the part that I love about it. It's problem solving. It's not the same thing every day. It's putting things together.
And also so rewarding when you see the final product and you see what difference you've made. Because listen, aesthetically speaking, I mean, this is for a lot of people that need stuff work done to their mouths. They become very self-conscious of things that are missing or lacking or not right in them, and especially with teeth. And when you're working on being able to give somebody that look in the mirror when they look and they open their mouth and they see the work you've done, and you kind of go, that's my work. I've helped somebody, make them not only feel better about themselves, but I mean, it's just a great rewarding feeling ultimately.
And I think you probably see it as well, but we're blessed that we're living in this age of Dropbox and iCloud and Google Drive. And I've been chatting to my patients recently to send me photos of themselves, and you see your patients on social media. And now you start looking at this timeline, 10 years prior to in 4 years after treatment, and you more often than not you see a huge personality difference. And I think this is where we get to appreciate our work a bit more than what Colleen does, because we get to see them more often in terms of the teeth and the white and the pink.
We don't see the final
they
product.
Don't see the
or them again because you've done your work well.
Yes, exactly. But it's just so nice. We work with the dentist and the prosthodontist, but I think again, working together, that's the thing, or the aim that we want to get at. You can't do everything alone. You shouldn't keep your knowledge to yourself.
Yeah.
You should share.
Now, Colleen, let's talk about your background, because your dad's a dentist, right?
Yes,
So
my
you
dad.
grew up in a house where, I mean, was he like that growing? Was he always checking your mouth and checking your teeth? And was it that kind of dad, or was it like, no?
No, it
wasn't
was actually not.
Okay.
I think we had more sweets in our house. My mom wouldn't like hearing this. My mom's a dietitian. So.
Oh, what a combination!
Yes, so, but no, we grew up and say health is important.
Yes, yeah.
But we actually 4 children, and all of us went into the medical field, and they never actually told us to go into it. They actually might have said, don't go, because
No way.
it's a struggle.
And not all in dentistry, all
No,
different
I'm
parts
the
of
only
it.
one in dentistry, yes.
So we listen. We know Dad's favorite is.
I don't want to say
So-
that loud. I'm also the youngest.
Oh, definitely. You know, the youngest is always the favorite. Listen, it's so great chatting to both of you. I can't encourage people enough. If you listen to this podcast and you haven't yet enrolled for the Dentistry of Things happening a bit later on, ITI Congress in South Africa, you're going to meet some amazing people, and you're going to see the great work the community is doing together as a family. Young ITI, if I can encourage you, if you're a little bit nervous about entering, maybe you're not the social butterfly you think you are, and you're like, oh, I can't really socialize with people, and I'm not. Go along. Ridwan had a beautiful story about the incident last night where there was 2 people, and immediately there was a connection, because there are other young people getting involved in the organization and wanting not only to share the knowledge, but also to experience what ITI has to offer. To both of you, all the very best between now and the middle of the year.
Thank you.
Are you busy as well, Ridwan? You're off to Ridwan and I got an invite right now. Just want to say, Colleen, we've been invited to Ibiza to go do a talk there. It's got nothing to do
Can
with
I come
dentistry.
with?
Yeah.
When is it? I'll check my
Check your
schedule.
schedule. We've been asked to address a whole lot of party goers in Ibiza about the importance of just making sure that your
Oral
teeth
health.
of oral health. Oral health is important in Ibiza.
Yeah.
Ridwan, we're leaving next week.
Yeah,
We
I'm
go.
sure in the top drawer the tickets are in
Tickets
there
are-
somewhere. Yeah.
Guys, all the best till then. It was lovely having you here.
Thanks for
Okay,
having
thanks,
us.
Ryan.
Thanks.